I am Wendy Weinberger. I am president and co-founder of Illuminos Academic Coaching and Tutoring. And I am here today with Evan Weinberger, my cousin. Everyone always asks, what's the deal with the last name? So I'm just letting everyone know we're cousins. Evan runs Staying Ahead of the Game in Houston, Texas, and he also has clients throughout Texas. And his business is our sister company. So we all offer academic coaching and tutoring, specializing in executive functioning coaching. And today we have with us Dr. Cam. Her website is askdrcam.com, and she is also known as the Teen Translator. So she is here to help you learn how to navigate those sticky communications and try to avoid some of those arguments that you have with your teen on a daily basis. She also is offering fabulous group meetings that are virtual, easy to attend. She has one going right now with a number of folks, even folks from around the world. And they're a great way to get some great insights, have some camaraderie with other parents who are in the same situation, and also learn the key things that you need to have an effective communication with your teen. So with that, Evan, do you want to welcome your Texas folks since I welcomed everybody around here?
Yes, these have been well attended and well received, and we're happy to bring these webinars to you. We focus tremendously, as you know, on our work with teenagers and those executive function skills, coaching them into realizing their potential and their success, as well as helping through subject matter and even some standardized test prep. But we only deal with parents on a tangential basis. And so we thought it was really wonderful to bring in yet another speaker here, Dr. Cam. We're really excited to have her to help parents as you navigate sometimes those turbulent waters with your teenagers. And our goal is we hope we do these for free, and we hope that you guys walk away with at least a handful of really good tips, some that you can implement perhaps starting immediately. And then I know Dr. Cam has some wonderful offering for those parents who are interested in getting involved on an ongoing basis. And in the new world we're living in, these offerings are virtual. So there are folks from Texas and the DC metro area and all over the rest of the country. And it looks like there may be a couple outside the country can certainly find time to tune in. We hope you find it helpful and hope you enjoy. Thanks, Dr. Cam.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much for having me on. And thank you, parents, for taking time out to join us. I really appreciate that. I'm going to jump on and share my screen real quick because this kind of helps me keep myself focused, because I can go off on lots of tangents because there's so much information. So there's some things I really wanted to teach everyone today. And I'm calling this 3 secrets to communicating with your teen. And like Wendy and Evan said, my goal is to provide you with actual practical tips that you can start doing today to help connect with your teen. So real quickly, they already introduced me, but I am Dr. Cameron Caswell. I'm an adolescent psychologist and a family success coach. And I spend every day working with parents and their teenagers to help them build a stronger connection through communication and deeper understanding. And it's a total joy to see parents and teens finally be able to understand and enjoy one another again. And so let me just start. People always ask, how did you get started in doing this? Why teenagers? And it really goes back to when I was a teen. And I remember this one situation specifically. There was lots like this, but one of them really stands out for me. And I was about 14 years old, and I was standing in the middle of the streets in Key West. And I'm being crushed by this crowd of drunken partiers, and they're all laughing and they're screaming 10, 9, 8. And all I wanted to do was scream, help me. About an hour earlier, I had been walking with my family, and I was tired and I was hungry. And my parents made it quite clear that my miserable attitude was ruining this otherwise amazing vacation, and I had better get my act together or else. I couldn't. And so I had lagged behind, which I did this quite frequently as a teen. I would lag behind, kind of testing them to see if they would care or notice, and really hoping that they would turn around and be like, oh, okay, we're sorry, we didn't realize how tired you were. They didn't. In fact, they were so annoyed with me that they sped up, and before I knew it, they were gone. And I was left there on my own, and I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. And all I could think was, if they don't care what happens to me, why should I? And I sat in that for like an hour before I felt my dad's hand grab my shoulder and my mom scream in my ear, "Oh my God, Cammie, don't you ever, ever walk away from us like that again. What were you thinking?" I never did get a chance to tell them what I was thinking, but I do want to tell you, after working with teens for over 2 decades, what I was thinking is what a lot of teens think. If they don't care about me, why should I? And here's what's so frustrating about that is I know that my parents cared so much about me. Of course they cared what happened to me. And I can't even fathom, as being a mom of a teen right now, I can't even fathom how terrified they were in that moment when they couldn't find me in this crowded streets at midnight. We do everything for our teens. I talk to parents all the time, and they're carpooling and tutoring and taking them on amazing vacations. And our goal is to just set them up to succeed. But some reason, teen mental health continues to plummet. Long before the pandemic, suicide rates, depression rates, anxiety rates, self-harm, aggression, they've all been increasing. The CDC found that suicide rates in teens actually increased by 60% between 2007 and 2017. What is going on? Based on my research as an adolescent psychologist, working with parents and teens, and being a mom of a teen myself, here's what I believe. But during adolescence, when our children are at their most vulnerable and impressionable, we lose our ability to genuinely connect with them. When they are most desperate for support and for encouragement and acknowledgement and acceptance, we end up kind of stepping away out of frustration and fear and hurt and anger. I'm not saying at all that parents are the cause of this decline, but I am saying there's so much we can do to help our teens' mental health, to prevent some of these issues, to turn it around and to change the trajectory of mental health. And so today I really want to talk about this. And here's some evidence that parents have so much impact. There was a survey done in 2020 that really was interested in teen mental health once the pandemic hit and how the pandemic was really hitting teens. And what they found is actually quite encouraging. They found that the teens that claim and reported that they had a stronger connection with their parents due to the pandemic and staying home and slowing down actually had improved their mental health. There was a study done even before that, and several studies done across many different ethnic backgrounds that found similar things, that strong parental support and connection is a protective factor against depression and anxiety and suicidal thoughts. So I find this to be really, really hopeful for us because we have so much concern about our teens. And our answer is us. That's great, because that's the only thing we can control, right? Is us. So I want to really talk today about what that looks like. The other thing I really want to indicate first, and why this stage, adolescence, is so dear to me and why I'm so passionate about it, is because we now know, thanks to a lot of neuroscience, that the teen brain creates this window of opportunity. During our life, we go through 2 brain growth spurts. During infancy, when we're learning to walk and talk, and during adolescence is the second one that we've just known, maybe in the past, a little over a decade, we've now known that we go through a second growth spurt. And our brain now is growing in density. It's creating this explosion of new neural connections. It's primed to learn how to self-regulate our emotions, how to problem solve, how to reason. It's also growing how we see ourselves, our belief systems about ourselves. So this is the time, this period of time is when we establish what their mindset and belief system is going to be for the rest of their life. Now, we can change it, but I don't know about you, but I've spent quite a lot of years, and I know pretty much every adult I know, is struggling with their own self-esteem and their own mindset and their own belief systems. And these were set when they were teenagers. And so why I love this period is because as parents, we have the power to help our teens establish a mindset that they're not going to have to spend the rest of their lives trying to overcome. So what can we do? I think the first thing I want to think about is I hear a lot of parents saying, I just want to survive the teen years. And I get it. I have a teenager. It's not easy. It's far from easy. And even when our kids are born, I hear parents going, oh my God, when they start rolling their eyes at me, and I know when they're teens, they're going to hate me. And here's what I really want to sink in though, is that if we are spending our time during the teen years just trying to survive and get through them, we're missing our greatest opportunity to help our children thrive. Our greatest opportunity. And a lot of us worry about our teens. We worry about their isolation from their peers and how that's impacting their mental health. But studies actually show that what impacts teens' mental health more is a feeling of isolation and disconnection from their parents. We worry about the messages that they get on social media. Studies show that what impacts them more is the messages they get from us. And so we want to make sure that we are connecting with them and sending those messages. Now, I know I can guarantee pretty much every single one of you right now is going, especially since you're here, I can guarantee every one of you is going, I have tried. I know all this. You're not telling me anything new. I know how important it is. I have tried everything I can think of, and it's them. They don't want to connect with me. I'm going to ask you, are you sure? During the pandemic, I've worked with several, unfortunately, a lot of teens with depression and anxiety. And I've asked a lot of them the question, when was the last time you were truly happy? Here's some examples of the answers I get. One girl said, last time I played games with my family, it was really fun. And I thought, great, your homework assignment. Go ask your parents to play some games. She did. They were too busy. Another teen told me, I love when my parents laugh at my jokes. I love telling jokes, and when they laugh at my jokes, it makes me feel so confident. But he didn't like hanging out with his parents right now because they were so worried about his grades that that's all they could focus on. And every conversation turned into his grades. And so I just want to express that I have yet to meet a teen in over 2 decades that doesn't want a better relationship with their parent. Not one. They all want a better relationship with you. They just don't know how. And again, study after study has shown this. There was one by Ellen Galinsky, who is the president of the Families and Work Institute. She interviewed thousands of teens, and she found out that the majority of them were yearning for more time and connection with their parents, even when they seemed like they were pushing them away. A 2000 YMC survey found that teens were 3 times more likely than their parents to be frustrated about their lack of time together. I get it, we are so busy. Our teens are busy. We've got so much going on. We're running from thing to thing to thing. But the question I ask parents all the time is, for what end? What are we trying to accomplish with all of this? We're trying to set our teens up to succeed, right? We're trying to make sure they've got everything they need and they know everything they need to be successful, happy adults. But so much of what we're doing is at the sacrifice of the one thing that matters the most, which is their connection with us. We don't have time to do that, and that's what matters the most. Why? One of the reasons I've experienced a lot is that it's easier. It can be really, really, really tough to connect with our teens. It's really difficult to understand. We try, we get stonewalled and eye rolled and attitude and everything else when we try. And I feel like I finally realized why it's so difficult to connect with teens. And this is what I teach. This is what I love. This first became clear to me when I was teaching adolescent psychology. And I had several students who are also parents, and they would start coming up to me and say, Dr. Camp, what you're teaching in class is completely transforming our relationship with our own teenagers. We get them now, and that makes all the difference. And I had this epiphany. Teens act out because they feel misunderstood. And teens feel misunderstood because they are misunderstood. In fact, I believe that they are the most misunderstood age group on the planet. Why is that? Because they experience the world in a completely different way than we do. It's like they're speaking their own language, and our communication gets lost in translation. When we look at how our teens behave, we look at their behaviors, we look at how they talk to us, and we see it through the lens of how an adult would see it or experience it. We feel disrespect, we feel defiance, we feel attitude, we get frustrated, it triggers us, and we respond back in that way. When we switch and we learn what teens are thinking and how they think and why they behave the way they do, we realize that what they're trying to communicate is actually that they need to be heard. They're doing their very best to voice what they want to say. They don't do it well. They're learning how to do it. When we also look at what we're saying to our teens and translate that through their viewpoint, we realize that so many of the things that we say to encourage them, to inspire them, to motivate them, to teach them is perceived as things like judgment and criticism and shame, disappointment. None of us intend to do that. They don't want to get in trouble. Believe me, no teen wants to get in trouble and disappoint their parents. No parent wants to shame and make their child feel less than that themselves. But when we don't understand how the other one is translating what we're saying, this miscommunication happens a lot, and this causes so much of the conflict we're experiencing. So what I want to do in the next 30 minutes or so is work through my 3 secrets on how to communicate with more understanding, authority, and clarity. And here's where I'm going to give you some practical tips and solutions to really create that connection. The first secret is to get curious. This secret is really how we communicate with understanding. So when your teen has attitude, when they're lashing out at you, when they're rolling their eyes, when they're lying, any of these things, I encourage you to ask why. I also want you to ask, when you ask yourself why, are you making assumptions? Are you getting to the facts? We have a lot of stories. We get triggered a lot in our emotions, and I get it. Nobody wants to be disrespected, especially by our own kids. But sometimes we get so focused on that behavior and not liking that behavior that we don't get to the facts of why that behavior exists. Why aren't they motivated? Why aren't they focused? Here's the way I explain it to parents. Behaviors are like the check engine light on our dashboard. When the check engine light goes on, we take it to the auto mechanic. Do we say to the auto mechanic, please fix the light on my dashboard? No, that's silly. It's saying, hey, something's wrong with my engine. Can you fix my engine? Whatever's wrong with it, I have no idea. And once they do, guess what happens? The engine light goes off because it's no longer needed. It's no longer alerting us to something wrong. This is the same way to look at our teens' behaviors. The attitude, the lying, the lack of motivation, those are all warning signs that something else is going on. When we just deal with the behavior, we just try to stop it without getting curious and asking why that behavior exists, that behavior keeps popping up over and over again, or it manifests in a different way that may be even worse. It may end it right in that moment, but it keeps popping back because we haven't dealt with the underlying problem. In fact, the number one reason why teens shut their parents out, lock themselves in the room, don't want to talk to us, is because they don't feel heard. Or as teens put it, they never shut up. That sounds disrespectful right there, right? But the truth is, teens feel like they don't have a voice. And I want to ask, how do we understand our teens when we're doing all the talking? We love to fix things. It's instinctual as a parent. When you hear them, you want to fix it. You want to console them. You want to calm them down. You want to stop the behavior. If it's a bad feeling, you want to stop the feeling. But what happens is we're not able to stop it. And we're talking and we're not listening. So the best way, and this is by far the biggest, most important tool that any parent can have, is the ability to listen well. And we don't listen well. It's not your fault, none of us do. We were taught to read, we were taught to write, we were taught to talk. I don't remember being taught to listen. And listening is so difficult. I do in my groups, we actually practice listening. I do a whole, just one of those sessions is on listening itself and how to do it well. And we do break off in groups and do practice. And it's fun and they laugh, but they also come back realizing how bad they are. And what's funny is I think most of their aha moments come when they're the ones that's trying to be heard, when they're the ones in this speaker seat and they're talking and the other person is practicing listening, and they realize how bad that person is at listening because they keep trying to correct and fix and jump. And they're like, wow, I don't feel heard. So it's pretty remarkable when your teens say, you don't understand. I'm going to guess a lot of that could be true. And it may be time to sit back and really, really listen to understand, not to rephrase and fix. So I'm going to give you a tool. I have a ton of hundreds of pro-parenting tips. This one's way up at the top because it's so important. And this one is what I teach all of my clients. It's the 80-20 rule. And you can do this today to start practicing listening to your teen. And here's how it works. For 80% of the time that you're talking with your teen, give or take, you're not talking at all. You're listening, and you're listening to understand. You're listening to try to identify their emotions. You're listening with curiosity to find out the why. For the other 20% of the time, you can talk, but use that time to fill in the gaps, ask open-ended questions, reflect back the emotions, validate what they're feeling, provide empathy. And once you've done that, your teen will walk away going, oh my gosh, mom, dad totally gets me. That helped so much It helps so much more than trying to fix. And here's the really, this is the best part. Parents get so freaked out because we don't know how to fix. We don't know what to say. We don't know what to do. And the good news is we don't need to fix. We don't want to say anything. We don't need to do anything. The best, most powerful thing we can do is not say anything and just listen, which takes a load off of our shoulders. And man, when we do that, the more we do that, the more our teens will start trusting us and coming to us and talking to us. I see this all the time, and it is so powerful when parents go, oh my God, I can't believe my teen just started talking to me. I can't believe it. They get so excited. And it's really just a matter of being able to do this 80-20 rule is a great way to start. Okay, so the first secret was getting curious. Now, this one's even harder. Take accountability. What does this mean? Well, many parents will come to me and they'll say, you know, my teen is so disrespectful. My teen is lying. My teen's not motivated. My teen is lazy. I've even heard my teen is an asshole more than one occasion. And yeah, a lot of them really come across that way, don't they? And then they say, can you help me fix that? Can you help me change that? How do I make them more motivated? How do I make them more respectful? How do I change that? And they don't always like my answer, but we can't change their behavior. They're human beings. We can't change how they feel. We can't change their instinctual reactions. What we can change 100% is how we show up. So if we're expecting our teens to change without first changing how we respond, we want our teens to just react to our same behaviors in a different way. It doesn't happen. It won't. We're going to get stuck over and over and over again. When we start changing even small tweaks in our tone, in the words we use, in the mannerisms we use, big changes happen in how our teen responds back to us. This again is great news because we have power over that. We can control how we respond. And so this is also the secret to acting in authority. Why is that? Because when we show up in a place of confidence, in a place of clarity, we show our kids that we have self-control and self-respect, and that earns theirs. So taking accountability is a big deal. So when your teen acts out and responds, one of the questions I want to ask you when you're responding to them or reacting to them is, am I setting my teen up to succeed or fail in this moment? I kind of got this aha moment actually because of my cat, Dorothy. One morning I came downstairs and my favorite coffee mug that my daughter had given me for Christmas was shattered on the floor. And I knew my cat had knocked it off the counter, which drove me nuts because my cat's not supposed to ever be on the counter. It doesn't listen to me ever. And instead of getting upset though, I sat back and go, wait a second. I set my cat up to fail in that instance. Because I had left my mug on the counter with my snacks still in it. I knew my cat likes the snacks. I knew my cat would get into it if I left it on the counter, pushed it off the counter. Did I like that behavior? No. Did I know my cat would do that? Yes, and I still left my mug up there. So I set my cat up to fail. We do this a lot, and here's the most common way parents set their kids up to fail. Yelling. I've yelled. I don't know many parents, if any, that haven't yelled. We get so angry and upset and frustrated and hurt, and we don't know what else to do. And I have parents tell me they don't listen to me unless I yell. I have to yell. That's how it goes in our house. Let me explain to you why yelling is setting them up to fail. So we talked about the teen's brain going through this growth spurt. Let me add a little bit more to that. The teen's brain also is growing unevenly. And the part of the brain, the lower part of the brain, which is responsible for emotions, is fully developed by the time they're about 11 years old. This is their fight or flight. This is their response system. This is their need for stimulus and all of that, just thinking, doing before they're thinking, right? It's the doing before they're thinking. The part of the brain, the upper part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, that's responsible for reasoning, for logic, for emotion control, for saying, if I do this, mom and dad are probably going to be pretty angry at me. That doesn't develop until they're well into their 20s, like 25, 26 years old. So right there, baseline, they are experiencing the world through this emotion colored lens. They're experiencing things with a lot more emotion and a lot less ability to reason and rein that in. That's baseline. Then we get them heightened, right? They're stressed out about something, they're upset about something, they're anxious, whatever it is, and their brain has now gone into fight or flight. Fight or flight response has been around since humans have been around, 2.5 million years. That response has been going and set. So asking a teen who doesn't have a prefrontal cortex to overcome that fight or flight is asking a lot, because even us adults have difficult getting beyond the fight or flight response, right? Because that's just a natural instinct. So they're there, right? They're in this heightened state. The only way to get teens through, or any humans, through this heightened state is to get through it. We can't stop their behavior. We can't say, stop being upset, stop being angry, stop doing that, because it takes them time to be able to stop. They have to work through it. So let's say we come to the table now, they're upset, we get upset, we start yelling. What does that do? The yelling, that then triggers them even more. That triggers that fight or flight. Now their heart's beating more, the blood's rushing more. All of these things are activated even more as we're trying to get them to calm down. This is how I want you to think of this when you start yelling. You're asking them, you're telling them to stop or wanting them to stop while you're pushing on the gas pedal. You're putting more gas on and trying to get them to stop. We're going to get run over. We're setting it up to crash. We're setting them up to fail. It is biologically not something they can do. And so when we get angry at them for not being able to do that, it gets very frustrating for them and for us. Everyone is disappointed. Everyone feels hurt. So what do we do instead? Well, I wish this was easier done than said, but it's easier said than done. The best way to take accountability is to stay calm. I mean, when our kids get upset, when they talk back, when they do things that really trigger us, it's difficult to stay calm. But I want you to think, if it's difficult for you to stay calm, it's even more difficult for them to stay calm. When we stay calm, though, we stop adding fuel to the fire. We are able to think more rationally from our prefrontal cortex that is fully developed rather than from the state or flight. We give them more ability and time to calm down. And best of all, we model what it looks like to handle a difficult situation from a place of calm rather than from a heightened state of emotion. So how do we stay calm? Let me give you one of my pro-parenting tips of square breathing. Square breathing, I was just looking at time because I want to walk you through this. So square breathing is one of the techniques I teach all of my clients, and I start all of my sessions out with some sort of form of mindfulness. I know it sounds woo-woo to a lot of people, but let me tell you scientifically why this works. When our body's in this fight or flight response, right, we're triggered to see danger. We need to tell our brain that it's okay. We need to signal to our brain that we're not going to be eaten by a lion, which is where that original fight or flight response came from. And the best way to do this is by slowing down our breath, because that slows down all of the other triggers and responses that fight or flight has released. Square breathing is one of my favorite because it's super easy to remember and easy to do. So the way that we do this, and I'm going to ask all of you to do this with me, because here's a trick right now. When you're in that heightened moment and you haven't practiced this, your brain is not going to go there. It's going to go to the automatic response. So it's very important that you practice either this or any other way to stay calm before you're in that heightened. And to imagine yourself being calm the next time your teen gets you upset, so that it becomes an automatic response to be calm. And it works. I do this. A lot of the parents I work with do this, and it's amazing when you're able to do this. So here's how this works. You're going to breathe in for a count of 4. And when you breathe in through your nose, deeply into your belly. We're going to hold it for 4 counts. Then we're going to breathe out through our mouth, breathe it all out, and then we'll hold that space. A few more things to make this even more powerful is I like to put my hand on my heart and one on my belly, because this also releases the tension in your hands, but also helps you feel that you're getting the air into your belly and feel your heart slowing down. The other trick that I recently learned that I love is to release the tongue from the roof of your mouth. When we get really stressed, our tongue presses to the roof of our mouth, which releases more of those endorphins or chemicals. I want you to release that, which helps release all of your whole body. So we're going to release this. So everyone, if you want, you can put your hand on your heart and your belly. If you want to close your eyes, you can, but I'm going to talk us through this. Ready? Okay, we're going to breathe in through 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold 2, 3, 4. Breathe out through your mouth, 3, 4, and hold 2, 3, 4. 3 more times. Breathe in through your nose, 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, out through your mouth, 2, 3, 4, and hold 2, 3, 4. Again, 2, 3, 4, and hold 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, and hold 2, 3, 4. Last time. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, and hold 2, 3, 4. Write in the chat how that felt. Anybody feel more relaxed from that? Now here's the real key with this. This is not about telling your teens to go square breathe. This is about you doing it. You can do it where your teen sees you doing it. You can practice it with your teen. You can ask your teen to join you. I'm going to guarantee if it's the first time you do it and they've never seen you doing it, anything like this, you're going to get a really, really, really big eye roll. But when they see you staying calm and whatever technique you use, they're learning to see that and go, okay, I can handle this situation from a place of calm. Mom and dad are calm, and it helps them come through there. And man, does that change the cycle of conflict when you're not adding to the conflict. All right, so now we're calm and we're curious. Let's do the third secret is playing the long game. And this is a secret to communicating with clarity. And I'm sure you've all experienced the frustration of having to remind your teen to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, and they still don't do it. Right? Have you had that happen? And then we get in this cycle of nagging, taking the phone away, threatening, yelling, whatever it is, to try to get them motivated to do it. And then the next day comes and we're back into the same cycle again. How many times do we have to teach them, tell them to pick up their room? How many times do we have to tell them, right? It's annoying, frustrating. All right. What are we trying to accomplish when we do this? Short term, we're trying to get them to sit in front of the computer. What are we trying to do long term? We're trying to teach them to make better decisions, right? We want them to be motivated to do that. We want them to want to make the right decision, right? So how do we do that? When you are asking your teen to do something or getting upset or responding to your teen in a way, I want you to ask yourself, am I parenting by default or by design? We have a lot of expectations for our kids. We have a lot of expectations for ourselves. But when I ask parents a lot of times why that expectation is in place, they struggle on coming up with a reason other than because they're supposed to, or because it's what they need to do, or because it's vague. And if it's vague for them, it's really vague for their teens. So when we are vague in the long term and we set rules and consequences and boundaries, although rules and boundaries and consequences can be one of the most powerful tools to help empower our kids and teens, it can also be the biggest cause of conflict and disconnection when they're not done correctly and they're not done from a place of long-term thinking, of long-term plans. And I will hear this from teens constantly. Where'd we go? No matter what I do, it's wrong. I don't know what they want. Why even bother? I can't do anything right. I think my mom loves to find reasons to take my cell phone away. She loves taking my phone away. I think my parents just want to always they like pick fights with me. We think this about them, right? They're thinking this about us. And I had one teen the other day say, my mom keeps telling me that I have bad attitude just because I don't like her rules. And I said, okay. I said, well, what rules don't you like? What are her rules? And she goes, I really don't know. I've tried to ask her and I really, really don't know what the rules are. And I think we in our heads have clarity on what the rules are, or when we see it, we know what we don't like or what isn't okay. But I think we don't always communicate it clear enough to our kids. And our long-term reason is that we want our kids to be able to make good decisions, right? But if they don't know what the rules are, why the rules are there, how do they know how to make good decisions? And so what I encourage people to do, and my tip is to make value-based decisions, value-based rules, value-based boundaries. And the way that I do this with the parents that I work with is we spend a whole session determining and defining our top 5 values. And I don't know a lot of parents that actually spend time really highlighting what are the values or the skills that I'm trying to teach my teen in the long run. And here's what's really cool about this is when you've got a value. So I'll give you an example. One of our values is kindness. And so when my teen needs to make a decision, or I need to make a decision, I can ask, is this kind? That's a lot easier to define and figure out the right answer than is this right? Is this right? Is this what mom and dad want? That's tough to answer, and we often answer wrong because we're thinking about it differently, right? We're thinking it from our perspective, not our parents' perspective. But if we say, is this kind? Now we have something to sink our teeth in, and now we can go and make our own decisions based on that value. So that is one of the things that I really encourage people to do. So we've got step 1, we get curious. Ask why the behavior exists. Step 2 is take accountability. Ask how we want to show up for our teens and are we setting them up for success? Step 3, what do we want in the long term? What is our intention? And when we do these 3 things, we can now respond mindfully. We can respond from a place of calm. And this is what I call the 4 habits of a calm parent. And I have taken 20 plus years of research and working with parents and teens and raising a teen of my own to organize the essential tools and what we need to really understand our teens, communicate with our teens, instill values and confidence and self-esteem into just these 4 habits. Get curious, take accountability, play the long game, and then you can respond mindfully. And I've tried to do this so I can make it really simple. So unlike the parents that were in my adolescent psychology class years ago that learned this information that changed their behaviors, I now want to present it to you in this type of way so that you don't have to go to the university. You can just go to me or somebody else, a parent coach that can teach you this. When we do this, when we parent from a place of calm, whether we experience problems just a few times a month, whether we are confronted with issues weekly, or whether we feel like we've been dropped into the middle of a combat zone, when we parent from a place of calm, we can have this positive connection and impact on our teens for years and years to come. And you can picture this day, and this is what I see with my clients. You can picture this day where your teen actually says, "Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. So you understand me." Or you can sit at a dinner table and just have a nice conversation without it turning into this emotional blowout, right? Or you can ask your kids and they can help around the house without having to nag. I've seen all of this. This is how I live. It can happen when you parent from a place of calm. So to make it super easy, I created this little handout that really highlights some of the key points that I made today. And hopefully one or more of these points or you'll find helpful and that you can take, and you can find that at a bit.ly link to make it easy. And it's bit.ly 4 calm habits. And that you can just print out for you. And I want to leave with this. And the best definition of parents that I found was actually from the Urban Dictionary. And it was, parents are either the people in your life who have the power to completely ruin you and your self-esteem. They make you feel like everything is your fault and you're worthless. Or the people in your life who love you unconditionally and make you feel like you can do no wrong. They are the ultimate supporter and friend. I know what you want to be, just don't let it get lost in translation. And that is it. If you want to connect with me, here's my info. My website again is askdrcam.com. And I do free consults, and you can schedule a free consult at calldrcam.com. And that is it.
So Dr. Cam, we do have some questions for you in our chat box. One of them is, if you can see it, you might want to read it yourself, but I'm happy to read it for the group. But basically, how do you go about handling refusals to do things? Is it as simple as just talking to them calmly, or can you give an example or sort of walk through how that would be?
Yeah, so this is a great question. It really gets into what I was saying. So it's asking why, 2 whys. Why are they refusing to do it? So an example with my teenager, my teen, like pretty much every teen, I think, was struggling with online learning. And it was like pulling teeth to get her to get in front of her computer. And I was getting to the point of getting upset and getting a little naggy. And then I stopped and go, wait, what would I tell my clients in this situation? And it's to ask my teen and listen as to why she was having trouble. And it turned out they were going too fast. Was going too fast. She was so far behind at this point, and she was just overly frustrated. She had tried, she wanted to tell them to ask to slow down or get help. She couldn't. The only way to ask for help was in the group chat. And we tried to get help another way. If I had just kept pushing her, it wouldn't have helped her, and it would have created this disconnect. But now it actually created a chance for us to connect because we problem solved together. What can we do to help her with that? So the first thing is to ask why. And the second one I would ask is ask yourself why it's so important they do it. because there are things that are very important they do. And there's some things that, like, I'll ask parents, why is that so important? And they don't really have a long-term goal answer. It may be annoying in the minute, but what is the long-term? So those are the two questions I would ask first.
And Dr. Kim, how do you know if you're a parent, how do you know when you need to enlist outside help? You know, at what point is the turbulence, you know, kind of so bad, and some of these things we've tried, you know, like at what point do parents know, what can they look for that should be a cue? Hey, you know, I should ask for help. We should get some outside help.
So I'll give you my one answer. My biased answer is get help before it becomes turbulent and a pain in the butt, because you can prevent all of this. And this is my biggest thing, is the teen years actually don't have to be turbulent. That is a false story we have told ourselves for years and years to come, and then we live into it. They don't. I see it every day. They don't have to be turbulent. So my first recommendation was don't wait. Learn how to do it now. And if it's to the point where you're really frustrated and you and your teen are arguing a lot, like I said, that is the time that you are teaching your teen their self-belief systems. So there's that window. And I mean, I'm biased again, but I would get help now because why wait? What are we waiting for? To get worse? What are we waiting for? Okay.
Another question just came in, and I will ask that first before I ask my question. But can you give an example of how a conversation really goes when you try to implement the rules around those things that we so get annoyed with, which are phones and Wi-Fi usage and bedtime and those kinds of things? So yes. Can you give a quick advice on how to handle that?
Yeah. And I mean, I think, again, I want to encourage people, because these questions are just like the questions I get all the time, and they're great questions. They're also very focused on the behavior. And remember, the behavior is the symptom, not the problem. So if we're having problems with our kids using their phones, right? Or we're having problems with our kids sneaking their phones into their room, we can focus on setting more rules. We can focus on taking the phone away. We can focus on all of those things. It's not going to stop it from happening. It's just going to get them more clever at getting around us, because we're not instilling the why, and we're also not addressing their why. So again, go and ask them, why? What do you love about your phone? Why is it so important to use your phone? And I know we didn't grow up with a phone, and I've heard parents say, I did okay, I didn't have a phone. Well, come on, nobody had a phone, so of course we were okay. Now that's where our kids connect, that's where they learn, that's where they socialize, that's where they entertain. So learn about their use of the phone and really empathize and understand. Then get to your point of, why are you concerned with their time on their phone? Because there's a lot of different reasons, but really, why are you concerned? Seriously, because some of the concerns parents have are these, again, stories we believe that don't have a lot of fact. There are some stories of, I'm really scared of their social, of, you know, bullying and what they're learning and all of this. Those are so valid. Or they're on it 24/7. That's totally valid. Why are they on it 24/7? They stimulate the kids' brains, releases dopamine. A lot of them are stressed. A lot of boys use gaming as a stress reliever. They're highly anxious. So instead of doing a rule and saying, okay, you can't do this anymore, figure out, what can I do to replace that if I don't like that way? How do you enforce discipline and consequences after you've had the wide conversations and discussed values? So again, this is about bad habits do take time to break. We know, adults, we have a lot of hard time. So we got to give our teens even more time, because again, they don't have this prefrontal cortex. So enforcing discipline and consequences. So here's the trick with discipline and consequences and correction. Don't work without connection. So if you're having a lot of trouble disciplining your kids and enforcing, and they're not paying attention to your rules, what happens, a lot of parents, what we do and our instinct is to try to take back more control. It's like riding a horse, right? And the horse starts to get away from you and you start pulling in your reins. And what happens when you do that? they start rearing up, right? And ignoring you. And so we try to get more control, and the more control we try to take, the more they push back, and the more they're going to basically push and ignore our rules. So if you're really struggling to enforce the discipline and the consequences, the first thing I would do is to take a look at your connection. I know parents want to just say this and they'll do it. That's not how it works. It's not how it works, unfortunately. And that's why we keep getting stuck in these cycles.
Thanks so much, Dr. Cam.
Yeah, I know we're bumping up against our allotted time here, and this is great. We could do this all day, but I think we're approaching the end here. I want to be respectful of everybody's time and the rest of their day. Thank you so much, Dr. Cam, for doing this. I do a lot of public speaking too, and when we are working with children and their families, these things do take time, and prevention is huge, and getting ahead of things. And parents worry, well, if I ask for help, I'm throwing in the towel, right? Yeah. And the truth is, think about our experience in school, think about our parents' experience in school and how they helped us and how much our experience was different than our parents, and imagine how different our children's experience is in school. And then parents, how the only way we know how to parent is really from the way our parents parented, but the world is different, which requires a slightly different approach. And so getting involved with professionals, whether it's, for your kids, services like us, executive function help, or whether it is parents for themselves, some coaching for themselves on how to handle situations. These are new situations. There wasn't Snapchat, there wasn't Instagram, there wasn't, some of these things. And so we're battling, things. Games used to end, right? Used to get a game and spend 2 or 3 days playing it, and then the game would end. And now games just kind of go on forever. They're set up differently, and somebody's awake somewhere in the world playing, and they're playing online. So it is absolutely not throwing in the towel, asking for some help. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you need help for the rest of your life. It could just be a little bit of nudge in the right direction. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us, Dr. Cam. I hope everybody found this helpful. Dr. Cam has shared her contact information, and we've put this in the chat as well. And everybody from Texas, happy to see you. And Wendy, speak to our audience in DC and have some closing words, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure. So thank you guys all for joining. Sorry, we went over by a few minutes. We did wait a few minutes in the beginning to allow everyone to come on, but you can continue to learn from Dr. Cam. She has a great podcast series. Recently, I think I was on a podcast with her.
You were. It's coming. Okay. It's being released soon.
Okay, so we talk about executive functioning skills and the importance of those as well, but it's just more free resources, as we're always trying to share with our families and for parents all around. This isn't an easy job. Being the mom of 5 kids, which includes 2 of my own and 3 stepdaughters, it's a challenge. Things always come up, and no one really knows all. So it's wonderful to have folks like you, Dr. Cam, come on it. We love sharing the experts that we love with our audience. So thank you so much for joining, and we look forward to announcing our next webinar, and you guys can all join that next month. So enjoy the rest of your summer, and reach out if you need anything from either Dr. Cam or from Illuminos. We're here to help, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you guys so
Teen
much.
Translator, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.